So, Mr. Pearl is a very successful entrepreneur from New York. And in 1985, he founded a firm, Entrepreneur Incorporated. His main business is produce electronics components. And now he has business all over the world, like in Hong Kong, mainland China, and Mexico, and so on. So he focuses on business plans, business development, and also creative marketing plans. Today he's going to give you two topics. The first one is the growth of an entrepreneur. From this one, you see from the title, I hope you can invest from failures, not from success, and also for those one who want to have your own business in the future. I think you will get some inspiration. And for the second one, how to get a good job in tough time, you got to have some tips, tricks for how to approach a job interview and what you should prepare for the interview. Also, how you can follow up with this interview. So now, I will give the stage to Mr. Carroll.
Thank you, Jane. Guten Tag, bienvenue. And I tell you, before I start off, because we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship thinking there, I want to show how Jane was very entrepreneurial and how we met that I'm here today. And this came about, I was in a small museum in Zurich, and this was a museum of clocks and watches that was in the basement of a big jewelry store. And it's a store that has been in the family for 7 generations, 350 years, and it was their personal collection. And it turned out that my cousin, who lives in Zurich, was the person that trained the curator of this museum. And I was standing next to her down there, and we were talking, and she was showing me a pagoda clock, a clock in the form of a pagoda, a Chinese pagoda. And she was telling the history of this. And Jane happened to be standing near me, and she chimed in with more history about this Chinese clock. And I turned to her, and we started talking, and as I always do when I meet people in foreign countries, I say, "Where are you from?" Expecting her to say Beijing or Shanghai or Shenzhen or something like that. And she turned to me and she says, "I'm from Vienna." And I said, "You don't look Viennese." And then she told me that she's teaching here and they give courses on entrepreneurship. And I told her that one of the things that I do back in America is there is a group called Junior Achievement. Junior Achievement is very much like a virtual enterprise, where they do this internationally, where they teach high school students about business. And you actually get to do some of these things. And I talk about these things about entrepreneurship, and I give a little bit of history of what it was like when I was in Junior Achievement when I was about 16 or 17 years old, about 4 years ago. So that's what I'm gonna talk about a little bit here, and I'm gonna give you plenty of chances to ask questions, and I'll be happy to give you some answers to the best of my ability. When I talk about entrepreneurship, in a way, the teaching of entrepreneurship is almost an oxymoron. It's not easy to learn entrepreneurship from a textbook. It's things that are driven within you to do the things, to make the sale, to make the things happen. And during my theme has always been, and if you check the history of any entrepreneurs, whether it's Bill Gates or any of the other people that started companies, you get into it, they have had many, many, many more failures than success. And that's what you always have to keep in mind. And also, you learn nothing from success. You really only learn from your failures. The way I got started, being at about 16 or 17 years old in high school, their junior achievement came. They came to my school in Brooklyn, New York, and they talked about learning business by doing business. You could actually form a company, and we did. There was a group of us, about 10 teenagers, that formed a company. We sold stock in the company. We made a product, and then we had to go out and sell it there. And we had an advisor, and the advisors, the business advisors that helped us, were people from American Machine and Foundry Company. If any of you ever go bowling, they're the people that make the pin spotters, the automatic pin spotters for bowling there. And they would come, we would meet once a week, and we would do these things of learning business by doing business. It was a real hands-on experience. One of our first products was a no-spill tray. You could actually carry it, and one of our demonstrations that we used to do is centrifugal force, was actually taking the tray, putting a glass of water, going around like this and hoping that it didn't fall off, and it really never did. And we would show it, and you could now carry a group of glasses, and you could, without spilling anything. And that was really what our first product was. And this is actually me, about age 16 or 17 back then, again, 3 or 4 years ago. So that's how we started this thing. That's how I started to learn business, by doing this there. We were very fortunate. We were a successful group there. We were selling our products. I was going out to the department stores, whether it was Macy's or Gimbel's or Saks Fifth Avenue in New York, and we actually were selling these things. And I think a little bit, when I think back on it, I think it was a little bit that when a young fellow would walk in with an order book and a sample, it was a little bit more out of pity than the actual product itself. But we made the sales, we made the things happen. And we were very fortunate. We were featured on television there, and again, that's me second from the right a couple of years ago. Yeah. I became a spokesman for Junior Achievement. I appeared on NBC Radio. That's the thing they had before television. And I used to talk about these things, about how we did this and how we built these products and how the learning experiences were. And you actually started the company in September at the beginning of the school semester, and you ended it in June at the end of the school semester. And then whatever profits were left, it was divided among the members and the stockholders. And I think at the end of this period of time, I made about $27 US there. But more important was the thing of learning what to do. So how did I really get started as an entrepreneur? How did the entrepreneurial thinking start? After I went to New York University, the Stern School of Business, and after I graduated from that, I was able to, I had 3 jobs, each one lasting 2 years, and I was learning things there. And I got a phone call from a friend of mine who was helping his father in his music store. His father had a music store. And he called me up, and this is about 1966. And at that time, in 1966, the Beatles had just come out. The music business was going through the roof. Everyone knew the success of the Beatles, and what they wanted to do was to have the chance to play the guitar and become an overnight sensation, have the girls chase you and make $1 million. Yeah. So he told me that he had just gotten a shipment of congas, bongos, maracas, all these Mexican items, and the wholesale, the gross handler, had left the label on the carton that gave the name of the factory in Mexico. So we looked up, there was no internet, we looked up the label, we wrote a letter. We had to write a letter, there was no fax, there was no internet. We wrote a letter to the guy, we got his catalog, we sent him an order, and we put together $1,000 each, US dollars, $1,000, and what we did was send him an order for $2,000. And about 8 weeks later, I got a phone call. He said, come down, the truck has just pulled up with all the things we ordered. Bongos, congas, maracas, castanets, all these things. And we went out We were peddlers. We went out as salesmen. And we went to the music stores, and we filled our cars with the merchandise. We went out, and within 1 week, remember, this was the boom time for the music business. In 1 week, everything was sold. Our investment of $2,000 US became $4,000 in 1 week, which is equivalent in today's dollars. We're looking at $12,000, became $24,000. And I said to myself, this is much, because I was earning only about $125 a week then. I said, this looks like we'll go into business. And that's how I made the decision. I went into business. I got married, went into business the same month. And we started out by working in his store, in the basement of this store in Harlem, in Manhattan there. We started by going out, knocking on the doors, making sales. We would go out Monday to Thursday, and we would take orders on product there. We would sell things of guitar straps, harmonicas, pitch pipes, guitar strings, drums, anything in the music business, we would be selling there. But we didn't have a lot of money, so we had no inventory. So what did we do? We would work Monday to Thursday, go out selling. On Friday, on Thursday night, we would come, we would compile all the orders, and then on Friday, I would run around to the other wholesalers and the importers, and I would buy what we sold. And Saturday and Sunday, we would work packing the orders. We sold it first, we bought it later. We reduced our risk there. And then we started to grow. And if those of you, how many people play the guitar here? Anyone play the guitar? I guess you all listen to it. Well, anyway, there's a famous guitar called Gibson. It's a major manufacturer there, and we wanted to get the line of the Gibson strings. And in order to get this, we had to qualify ourselves as an upcoming grosshandler, a wholesaler, and which was not so easy in those days because we really had no big inventory. Our warehouse was about from here to the window. That was all it was. And our shelves were empty because what we would do was we would sell things, we'd go buy it. And the guy from Gibson says, okay, I want to visit your premises. I want to see what you're doing. So what I did was, the night before, I went to the supermarket. I got a lot of empty boxes. I took the empty boxes, and we filled all the shelves with empty boxes. On the outside of the boxes, we wrote 120 pieces Hohner harmonicas, 42 dozen of the strings there. We put 72 pieces of pitch pipes, of drumsticks. Everything looked from the floor to the ceiling that our inventory was full. So he came in, and I saw him looking around to see, looks, these guys have a good inventory. And I had him sit down, and as soon as he sat down, the phone rang. Why did the phone ring? Anyone know why the phone rang? What was he also looking for if we were making sales? Okay. I say, Mr. Milligan, one moment, please. I pick up the phone. I say, oh, yes, oh, excuse me 1 minute. And I start writing, okay, you want a dozen harmonicas, and you want 42 drumsticks, and you want this and that. Oh, thank you, Duncan. I hang up the phone. And we talk a few more minutes. The phone rings again. I say, excuse me. I pick up the phone. And I say, oh, okay, excuse me. Oh, you want 3 drum sets, 4 guitars, I write it down like that. And do you know who was at the other end of the phone? That young lady back there, my wife for 45 years, was calling me, and she was saying, how's it going? How's it going? What I'm showing you is always be one step ahead. See how you can do the things to make it happen there. One of the things that is very important as an entrepreneur, you have to be smart, you have to be resourceful, you have to be hardworking, but you also have to be lucky. That's a very important thing. I mean, in your life here too, you have to be lucky at what happens there. But it's not just luck. Luck happens, but what you do with the luck determines the next steps. I was at a wedding on a Sunday night. Sitting next to me is a guy, very elegantly dressed man, and we get into a conversation. And I find out he's the executive vice president of Columbia CBS Records. CBS Records, Columbia Records, and for those of you that remember, a record is a round thing with a hole in it that played with a needle there. Columbia Records was the biggest seller of music, recorded music. They had 300 salespeople. They had 15 warehouses all over. They had international places too. They were huge. And we started talking, and I said to him, you know, in the conversation, I said to him, you know, I have an idea for you. We could provide you with a full line of musical instrument accessories to be sold in record stores, in the record shops, because no one was focusing on the record shops. The same customers that go to the music stores actually are the same kids that go to buy the records. He says, that's a good idea. Can you come and see me at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning? Now, there was no PowerPoint, there was nothing there. So I came the next morning with my partner with a yellow pad of paper with my ideas sketched out on it. And what we did was we showed him this concept of taking the accessories and packaging them all together in one package on a revolving stand there. And they did the test of this thing. They tested it in 2 cities. And we scraped together the money to do this. And one of the things that happened before the test came is it was our first experience of importing. And at that time, in this 1969, 1970, China did not really exist as a manufacturing country. It was Japan. That was where the product was coming from at that time. And they had no experience on importing. And we found out from some connections I had made where to buy the product. But one of the things we never did, we didn't know enough to ask for a proof of the packaging. I had designed a box with beautiful gold ink and a see-through window on it. And I never thought of asking for a proof of what the box was going to look like. The shipment came in. It was a disaster. Gold ink turns out to be a horrible thing to print with because it comes off. We took out the boxes, all of a sudden, look at my shirt. I'm full of gold ink. What was worse, you see the word Columbia, which is their name? The Japanese spelled it C-U-L instead of C-O-L. That was it. There was no way we could use these things. So we had to think of something. And what I did was I went out to to some of the department stores, to the cosmetic areas, because in cosmetics, they're the leading edge of packaging. And I saw that they were using vinyl bags instead of poly bags. Poly bags get cloudy, they look cheap. Vinyl bags, when you put some piece of merchandise in it, they were using this for brushes and lipsticks and things, it pops, it makes it look good. So that's what we did there. We took these, and all this merchandise got packaged in these things. And I actually had a packaging party at my house by inviting a bunch of friends. Of course, we had no money left for the labor. And I invited these friends for hot dogs and things, and then they found out that they had to do packaging. So now they came back to us, and they said, okay, the test orders was very successful. And here we're going to give you our new purchase order. And they hand me a purchase order for $500,000 US dollars. In today's dollars, it's 1.8 million. All we had in the bank was $8,000. So, we need money. We have to finance it. Where do you go for money? Where do you go for money? Huh? To the bank. And what do the bankers say to you when you ask for money? What's their favorite word? No, you're right. They say no. They say, yes, we'll give you the money, but you have to give me a Picasso, you have to give me another bank account, you have to give me your firstborn, and they're very famous for saying that. So, I said, after going to my bank, I went to 10 other banks, got the same answer. I went back to the guy I met at the wedding, and I said to him, Stan, we can't finance this. And I said, I can't do it. He said, what's the name of your bank? And I told him at that time it was Manufacturers Hanover. There became Chemical, which became Chase, which became J.P. Morgan Chase. Anyway, he tells the secretary to get my bank on the phone, and he says to the guy, he asked me the name of the guy there, and it was Richard. And he said, Richard, I have Chuck Pearl and his partner here. They need $300,000. I'll give you CBS's guarantee for 50% of what you loan them, but you have to tell me now while I'm on the phone with you. Otherwise, I'm going to take them downstairs to Citibank, your competitor, and I'm going to arrange the financing there. And then I hear him say to the bank, I know we will not give you 100% guarantee, only 50%, but tell me now or I take them down to the other bank. Oh, send them over with the guarantee and you'll give them the money? Okay. He typed up the guarantee on CBS stationery, he signed it, I went to the bank put $300,000 in my account. And that's how we got the financing. I said to him, Stan, why didn't you guarantee 100% for you? For CBS, you know, $300,000 means nothing. He says, because if I guarantee 100%, you don't establish the credit. I guarantee half of it, then you're on the risk for the bank. You show them that you can pay back on time, and then you'll get all the money that you want. And he was very smart, and it proved to be very true, because the banks did work with us after that. So then what we did was this. When you have channels of distribution, you want to add. You want to add selling the same product to distribution channels. Remember, CBS Records, Columbia Records, they were huge in the record business. If you're selling records, what are they selling? They're selling record players. So we came out with the first headphones, as you can see here. These headphones were the stereo headphones that would plug into the record players at that time. And we used to bring these in by the 40-foot container loads, huge container loads of these, that then they would send out for distribution. Yeah. Talking about fast